It all began with the quiet nights when the village first noticed strange sounds. It seemed as if the forest was whispering something deafening and ominous. The barking of dogs was no longer heard. The animals disappeared first. Then people began to disappear. Catherine, a journalist, came to the village on an assignment to write an article about the strange disappearances. She was met by the fearful and silent villagers who avoided talking about the strange occurrences. The only one who ventured to share was an elderly local resident, Vasily. He told Catherine a legend about an old laboratory at the edge of the forest. There, he said, they used to conduct experiments with insects. He whispered that he had seen something terrible, huge black, buzzing creatures that moved as a single organism. "Don't go there, girl," he begged. But the journalist could not resist curiosity. Catherine decided to go to the laboratory, taking with her a camera and a flashlight. With each step deep into the forest, the atmosphere became more and more ominous. Thick fog flowed over the ground, and dead trees stood like guardians of an ancient mystery. Soon she heard a strange sound, as if thousands of tiny teeth were scraping on metal. She approached the massive, rusted laboratory door when the silence was broken by an eerie sound. A buzzing. It grew louder and louder. A swarm of insects emerged from the ventilation shaft, covered in black slime. They looked like giant ants with wings, but their eyes, tiny, red, and shimmering, were like the eyes of a predator. Catherine rushed to escape, but one of the insects managed to sting her in the neck. A searing pain pierced her body, and she felt something injected under her skin. Catherine returned to the village, panting. She told of the swarm, but her words only increased the fear among the villagers. They began to board up windows and doors. However, this did not save them. That same night, the swarm attacked. The insects flew out of the forest, filling the streets. They crawled into houses through the tiniest cracks, ripping out boards with their jaws as sharp as blades. Their victims screamed, but not for long. The swarm worked quickly, leaving only bloody bones and shreds of skin. Catherine watched this from her window. She saw a neighbor trying to escape, but the insects covered her from head to toe. The woman screamed until her face disappeared under the black mass of buzzing creatures. In the morning, there were almost no survivors left. Catherine and a few residents went to the laboratory to destroy the swarm. Inside, everything was covered in cocoons from which slime oozed. There were insects moving on the walls like a living carpet. In one of the rooms, they found a scientist's diary. The entries told of the Abyss Swarm Project. The scientists were trying to create insects that could adapt to any environment. Their DNA was mixed with the genes of predators, resulting in disaster. The last entry ended with, "They're smarter than we thought." At that moment, one of the survivors screamed. His arm was covered in insects. They pounced on the group, cutting off their escape routes. Catherine rushed outside, hearing people screaming behind her. Catherine returned to a village plunge into an ominous silence. The houses were empty, the windows boarded up, and the doors ripped off their hinges. The streets showed signs of panic flight, but not a single soul. It became obvious. No one had survived. Her body ached with fatigue and pain, and the bite on her neck grew hotter and hotter, throbbing with increasing intensity. She went into one of the abandoned houses to catch her breath and happened to see an old mirror in the corner. Something horrifying was reflected in it. The wound on her neck was swollen, and something was moving under her skin, as if trying to break free. Catherine cried out in panic and grabbed her neck, but it was too late. The skin began to tear. Tiny insects began to emerge from it like a stream. They were a copy of the ones that had destroyed the village, small with red eyes and sharp jaws. Catherine backed away from the mirror, but could not take her eyes off her reflection. As if in a hallucination, she saw the shadows behind her back begin to move, forming into the silhouettes of huge insects. The wound on her neck continued to bleed, oozing a dark liquid. She realized that her body no longer belonged to her. The swarm had become a part of her vessel. The last seconds of her consciousness were consumed by terror as a wave of buzzing creatures burst out of her, turning her into another victim of the merciless swarm.